The Orlando Magic aren't sneaking up on anyone anymore. How that changes how we approach the season and what to expect from the season. Plus, can the Magic really find success beyond results? I'll pose that question and probably answer it the way you think I'm going to. We'll get to that, plus Franz Vagner prepping for the Olympics on today's Locked On Magic.
You are Locked On Magic, your daily Orlando Magic podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And you are indeed Locked On Magic. Today is July 15th. It will be July 16th, 2024. My name is Philip Rossman-Reich. I'm the senior writer over at OrlandoMagicDaily.com. You, of course, find me on Twitter at PhilipRR_OMD. On today's episode of Locked On Magic, the Orlando Magic know they aren't sneaking up on anyone anymore. The challenge that brings to the Magic. We'll talk about what Jamal Mosley said on that to our friend Mike Scotto of Hoopsite. Plus, can we measure success beyond results? How the Magic's two paths here may make it hard to assess the season. We're going to get into some of those thoughts. These are kind of big thinking questions here in just a moment. But first, we want to thank you again for making Locked On Magic part of your day every day, no matter when you listen to us, whether it's first thing in the morning, whether it's right when we upload. We truly appreciate you making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. Remember, there's great Locked On podcasts covering every single team in the NBA. To search for Locked On and the team you're looking for, the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more as the playoffs have come to a close, as Summer League draws to near an end, as we get past the quietest part in the sports calendar with the MLB All-Star Game. The sports stops sportsing. But this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com to get started today. The Orlando Magic won 47 games last year. They were the 5 seed on the final Sunday of the season before game 82. They were sitting pretty in the 2 seed. Life was really good for the Orlando Magic last year. And I don't ever want to take away what the Magic accomplished and the stage that they set in the 2024 season. I know we're all eager to get to the next phase, and we're going to talk a little bit about that in our second segment. But never forget how special the 2024 season was, because there is, frankly, nothing more fun than a team figuring out how to win for the first time. A team that has been together for however long they've been together, have gone through losses and rough seasons to grow together and finally experience success. Those seasons are awesome. 1994, let's go Heart and Hustle, the 2000 season, 2001 as well, 2007, 2008. We'll give 2008 when they won the division for the first time. 2019, I'll give you 2019 on that as well. The season where you first put those pieces together and win, it's just a blast because you're just happy to have that success. There's no expectations. So the expectations are probably at a low enough level that you've surpassed the expectations. You just feel everything else is gravy, that everything else is just added bonus to what you're hoping the team would become. It's just fun. But that time gives way to pressure. There is always pressure in the NBA. Because if you're not moving forward, you're going backward. That's the reality of the league. You've got to find a way to keep getting better, to keep building on success. And nothing is more stressful than trying to build on success. To say, I am not satisfied with this good feeling I have. I need a little bit more. It's a little bit greedy, and you got to be greedy. To get the big gold trophy, the one that we all want, to get the big gold trophy, you got to be greedy. You got to hurt. You got to go through some pain. And you got to keep wanting to be better. So the Magic had their honeymoon season last year. That honeymoon is over. We're done with it. Because not only did the Magic make it to the playoffs, not only did they make it to the postseason, get to a Game 7, do all the things that have us so excited for this team's future and what's coming down the pike. Not only did the Magic do all of those things, but now they got to do it again. They're not catching anyone by surprise anymore. And that is, if you're the skeptic, and yes, there are skeptics about this Magic team, that was the argument that I kept getting. Is, oh, the Magic beat this team because they thought it's just the Magic. And yeah, the national media still talks about the Magic that way too, because we had a decade of being awful. Everyone's still getting used to the idea that you come to the Kia Center, it's going to be a rough night for you. Magic had the third best home record in the Eastern Conference last year. Everyone's starting to figure out, oh, this Magic team's pretty good. And that's going to be one of the biggest challenges for the 2025 season. Because yes, I think this Magic team is better. Adding Kentavious Caldwell-Pope makes this team better. He is a better player than Gary Harris. And the Magic kept Gary Harris on top of that. I do believe this Magic team is better. But copying last year's results is still going to be incredibly tough, let alone trying to build on it, trying to improve on it, trying to be better. It's going to be a humongous challenge. And the Magic are entering this offseason knowing that what they're going to go through in the 2025 season is going to be completely different than what they went through in 2024. The Magic will get some national TV games, knocking vigorously on wood. Probably 4 or 5. That's all we're really asking for. They're going to be in the spotlight. I am looking at the futures on our friends from FanDuel, which we'll read that ad in a little bit. The Magic are 4th or 5th in the odds to win the Eastern Conference. They are the betting favorites to win the Southeast Division. The Magic got a big write-up in the Ringer saying they quietly won the offseason and are building a team that is capable of challenging for the Eastern Conference Finals maybe as early as this year. And I'm not here to douse those flames. I think it's possible. I think anything is possible. This team is good enough. And they're going to be as good as their individual players grow, but they're good enough to compete with the Bucks, with the Sixers, with the Cavs, with the Knicks, with the Pacers. In a very tight Eastern Conference, the Magic are good enough to compete. But now everybody knows they're coming. Jamal Mosley spoke to Michael Scotto of Hoops Hype and said, quote, "You're no longer going to sneak up on anyone. You embrace the expectations of people knowing you're going to be better and that you have the experience of not just the regular season, but also the playoffs. You embrace the expectations. You embrace what's coming. But you know you have to tighten up everything a little bit more. You've got to be able to dive into the details. You've got to focus on the little things in the game, which is what the game of basketball is. You continue to work hard, continue to focus on the details, and push each other." End quote. This is the ultimate lesson now for a young team. They got to do it again. And it is not simply, oh, we show up and we're this good again. It takes even harder work to not only maintain your place in this very crowded Eastern Conference, but to advance further. And this isn't a time to relax because now everybody knows just how good you can be. The curse of playing so well last year and getting to a Game 7 is now those teams aren't going to take you lightly. Now those teams, like the Hornets did that April evening, are looking at you as a game they want to get. You are no longer just the hunter, you are the hunted. When you roll into an arena, there's a buzz in the building. And look, these are humans. National TV games get bigger buzz. Playing against teams that are contending for titles get bigger buzz. It is a different mindset, a different approach, a different focus you need to have when you're expected to win every game. And let's make this 100% clear. The Magic are not going to go like 72-10 or anything like that. But there's probably only 4 or 5 teams in the entire NBA that equal rest advantage. You expect the Magic to beat every team, except for maybe 4 or 5 teams. And frankly, Denver's probably one of them, and the Magic swept Denver last year. You're probably only looking really at Boston. Honestly, Boston, OKC, Magic beat Minnesota last year. There aren't many teams that the Magic should feel like they have no chance against. They should feel they are capable of beating every team in the league. And that is a different mindset than what we've seen from this team recently. It is, and we got a long way to go for the 2025 season, so we will repeat this message. It is a brand new era and a brand new ball game for this Orlando Magic team. They're not sneaking up on anyone anymore. They are the favorites, and they are expected to do things. So then, how do we measure success? Is it simply about results? Or is there something more? We're going to ponder these questions. We're not going to make conclusions. And yes, I will say winning matters. But we're going to ponder some of these questions about whether the Magic can find success beyond results coming up here in just a moment. But first, today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by our friends over at eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With more than 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you will always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it is easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers. We want to thank you for making Locked On Magic part of your day. Every day for your next listen, be sure to check out the Locked On Sports Today 24/7 streaming channel. Program for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Look, I was watching the U.S. basketball game, tuned in early, caught the last 5 minutes of a show on a national network, which we will not name, and it's stressful. Like, even if they weren't shouting at each other, just knowing that a shouting match or some ridiculous point is around the corner, it's stressful. When you want to know what's going on in the world of sports, you want to hear from the local experts who know their team best. And that's what the Locked On Podcast Network brings you, and that's what Locked On Sports Today is. It brings you the can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. That's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to preface this next conversation by saying we're in a results business. The Orlando Magic are in the results business. And the expectation, externally at least, is not only to return to the playoffs, it's to get to the second round. If you are up 18 in the first half of a game 7, the next logical place for you to grow, for a clear sign that you are now better than you were last year, is to make the second round. This is how we're going to measure this team. And you know, you've probably heard me say this, where I'll say a season is not a failure if X happens, but it's not a success unless X happens. I'm going to kind of set those parameters today. The season cannot be a success unless the Orlando Magic are in the second round of the playoffs. Hold me to that freezing cold take me, do whatever you got to do, clip this part of the episode. We don't have our AI software up and running yet. The 2025 season for the Orlando Magic is not a success unless they're playing the second round of the playoffs, unless they get out of the first round and are one of the final 4 teams in the Eastern Conference. Maybe there'll be qualifiers. We do have to get through a season and see how things shake out, and everything deserves context. But sitting here in mid-July, that's how I feel. Sitting here in mid-July, I will say unequivocally, if the team is getting better, they are advancing further in the playoffs. But I do think it is important to remember what Jeff Weltman has said. And I, like I've said a million times, my approach, I'll let them set the guardrails of like, okay, this is how they're viewing the team. Let me talk about them in their language. Let me speak, the GM's giving me GM speak. Let me speak their language. Jeff Weltman has said that the Magic are in this very tricky position, and it guided them this offseason. So clearly this is something that matters. Yes, the Magic want to win. They want to compete. They are a playoff team. There is nobody in their right mind that is saying the Orlando Magic are not a playoff team in 2025. Every prediction, you go by the magazines. When we do our Locked On podcast, it will be the second year in the history of the Locked On, the third year in the history of doing Locked On that I am not in the tanking group. It will be I don't even know what group they will put me in for the ultimate NBA preview. I'm very excited to be in a new group and to say, hey, everybody, I'm Philip. The Magic are good again. Yay. The Magic are on that level. They are a playoff team, bar none. And the season is an absolute failure if they are not in the playoffs. Let's set that guardrail pretty clearly too. But Jeff Weltman also said this season is still about development. At the end of the day, this is still a development project. Paolo Banchero is 21. Franz Wagner is 22, 23 years old. Wendell Carter is still 25 years old somehow. Jalen Suggs is 22. Like, there are so many young players on this team that a very clear goal for the Magic was to allow those young players to continue developing, to continue growing, to give them the space and the cushion to keep growing and keep building. That is something important to consider too, as we begin to formulate and think about what the goals for the season are. And perhaps, how do we define success? This is all really important stuff to think about. How do we define success for this team? And obviously results matter. Again, I'm not going to sit here and pretend otherwise. But it does feel like the Magic are reaching for something more. And there has to be this realization too. The Eastern Conference is significantly better. And we saw last year that the Magic entered game 82, where if they won, they were the 5 seed, and they lost, they were the 8 seed. There's maybe some more complications and ways they could have climbed a little bit higher. But at the end of the day, if the Magic won that game, they were the 5 seed. If they would have lost that game to the Bucks, they would have been the 8. That's how this season's going to be too. I imagine spots 2 through 7 and perhaps 2 through 8. I still have decided if the Miami Heat are going to be good. I don't think the Miami Heat have decided if they're going to be good yet. But spots 2 through 7 are going to be separated by 2-3 games. Probably game 82 is going to matter again. And personally, yes, results matter. You end up where you end up. But personally for me, I don't like judging an entire season based off of one game. Based off of, everybody was sick in January when the Magic had to go to Sacramento or go to Atlanta, for instance. There was this schedule loss that there was nothing anyone could do about. And every team has those. I don't want to judge a team solely by that one game, but obviously you got to be able to perform under pressure too. And one of the big lessons the Magic told us during exit interviews is the biggest thing they learned this year is that every game truly matters. That losing those games in January when everybody was sick ultimately cost them home court advantage. And in a series where the home team won every game, that would have meant something. And quite frankly, I think Orlando was a little bull rushed in those first two games in Cleveland. I think they might beat Cleveland in 5 or 6 games if they would have had game 1 and 2 at the Kia Center. That's me. I don't know. But the fact of the matter is, this is a very competitive Eastern Conference. And I think, well, results matter. And obviously we're going to worry about wins and losses throughout the season. I don't know if we can measure progress or success necessarily by the team's record. The Magic are a better team now than they were in May. But getting to 47 wins again could be very tough. Getting the 47 wins and the 5 seed may not happen either. And it's going to be little things that'll be the difference between that 5 and that 6 seed. That's the truth of this. That's the truth of how competitive this league has become and this conference has become. And so I got criticized for this, but this is what I mean for saying this. I believe the Magic can be a better team, but with a worse record than they had last year. And even with a worse seeding than they had last year. Because those margins are so narrow. And so I think results are important. And the Magic have to be competitive in whatever playoff series. And frankly, thinking and speaking in hypotheticals like this is not going to help anybody. We're going to need the context of the season to evaluate everything. Like I said, I have my guardrails. Missing the playoffs is failure. Success is getting to the second round. There's a lot of wiggle room in between those two things to help us decide, okay, what did we learn? What did we see in the 2025 season? But I want to prepare you guys, my audience, to seek success beyond results. To say this got better, this positioned the Magic better for the future. They did this better than they did last year. It just so happened that 48 wins was the 6th seed this year. Or 47 wins was the 6th seed this year. Or, they dropped this game that they won last year. Won a few more games that they should have won. One area the Magic do have to get better at is beating good teams. They beat plenty of good teams, but they were among the worst teams that made the playoffs in the Eastern Conference on that mark. There's a lot of things that we're going to have to consider to judge success. And frankly, results will just be a shorthand for that. U.S. basketball snuck by Australia. Not a lot of Joe Ingles in that game. Not that we care anymore. Love you, Joe. Love you, Grandpa Joe. How Franz Wagner is performing for Germany and why fans are a little bit concerned. Yes, we've been following. We'll get to that coming up here in just a moment. But first, today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Like I said earlier, this is the dead part of the season for sports. It's the MLB All-Star Game, so there's no baseball going on. The WNBA is coming to the end of its regular season and taking a break for the Olympics. I believe today is tomorrow is the last game. I know the Aces play their last game before the Olympic break tomorrow on Tuesday. The soccer tournaments are over. We got MLS and NWSL, go Pride. But sports is kind of stopping right now. But at FanDuel, they let you keep the sports going and stay interested in what's going on whenever you want. All you have to do is open the app and dream up bets anytime you're in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone all summer long. I checked out some of the odds on FanDuel today. A lot of good, interesting Magic stuff going on. Obviously, they do have summer league spreads, which if you're a sicko, you should do that. But more than that, The Orlando Magic are actually the favorites to win Summer League. I checked that out. Them and the Houston Rockets currently the betting favorites to win Summer League. If you're looking to bet futures, the Orlando Magic currently fourth in the odds at plus 2,000. Celtics, Sixers, Knicks, and Bucks, heavy favorites to win the Eastern Conference. But the Magic are right there. They're not right there, but plus 2,000, that's the best of the rest of them. That's something. And of course, the Magic favored to win the Southeast Division at minus 140 over the Miami Heat at plus 125. The odds for Atlanta, Charlotte, and Washington are hilarious. Washington's plus 30,000. So that's a bet if you want to make it. So head on over to FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer today. FanDuel is an official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. So we're in the run-up to the Olympics. We're now a week and a half away from the Olympics. The Olympics tip-off or start. They don't tip off. Opening ceremonies are July 26th. That is the same day as Deadpool and Wolverine. So plan your things accordingly. You can actually, I think, see the opening ceremonies at select theaters, which is fun. I don't know if they're doing it live or doing the replay. I will be watching the replay with my family because we love the Olympics. And opening ceremony is going to be really, really cool. But the Olympics are coming. And Team USA had a rough go against Australia. They look very much like a team that's played 2 games together and have had about a week of practice together. A rough game, a lot of turnovers, a lot of settling for jumpers, just not very engaged after they took a big lead in the first half. So frankly, typical Team USA stuff. If you've listened to me talk about the Team USA program, I am not a fan of how they run Team USA. I am not a fan of trying to smash a team, to kind of slap a team together at the last minute. I know it's been successful. I know it works, but God, it's rough at times. I'd rather see them develop a team that grows together over time with players who are committed. Maybe you have a little bit larger pool to give guys some summers off here and there, but Franz Wagner goes every summer to play for Germany. I don't see really why Team USA can't get that kind of commitment from their players, other than no one wants to give up their summers unless it's for a nice location like Paris or Los Angeles in 4 years. That's neither here nor there. We, as Orlando Magic fans, will be watching Team Germany very, very closely. Obviously, Franz and Mo Wagner playing for the defending World Cup champions as they look to medal at the Paris Olympics. And like Team USA, Germany has started to get its prep work done. They played a game against the Netherlands over the weekend. They opened with a game against, I believe, Serbia in their first game, or against France. Sorry, they opened with a game against France over the weekend. Germany's looking good. Like they know what they're doing. Franz, they played a doubleheader against France. Franz and Mo sat out the first games to sign their contracts. Played the second game. Both did their thing. Like that, it's like the stat lines are pretty solid. Nothing crazy here. Nothing crazy here. Sorry, I'm just reading a Woj tweet that is not important right now. They're doing things that we expect them to do, but obviously a lot of Magic fans are really focused on his 3-point shooting. Look, Franz against France without Victor Wembanyama, mind you. Franz Wagner had 17 points in like 21 minutes. Like he's still capable of scoring at a very high level, and he gets downhill, works his way to the basket, finishes around the paint, hits some mid-range jumpers. Very typical Franz Wagner type stuff. Stuff that we are very used to seeing Franz Wagner be successful at, and why he's such a really interesting player, because he will get to the basket whenever he wants. That is the fun part of Franz Wagner. But that is not what we're here to see. He kind of took it easy against the Netherlands. I never saw a full stat line against the Netherlands the other day, but the Netherlands are not an interesting team. They're not really a competitive team. We will see Germany play the U.S. in London over the weekend, I believe. Let me double check when that game is. Excuse me. On Monday? Yeah. On Monday, we will see Germany play the U.S. So we will get to see Franz Wagner in a marquee game here right before the Olympics begin. That's the last warm-up before the Olympics. But of note, Franz Wagner is 0 for 7 on threes in the first 2 exhibition games. He went 0 for 2 against France, so not settling, 0 for 5 against the Netherlands. People who watched the game told me that there's a lot of step backs, not a lot of spot up threes, so nothing crazy, nothing to be worried about, but it is the continuing trend of this is the thing the Magic need Franz Wagner to be good at, to A, be worth the contract that they're paying him, but B, to help elevate them to that second round. This is the improvement they need to see. And so far in competitive games, we are not seeing that. I would only say this: A, we're dealing with very small sample sizes. B, we are dealing with friendlies, which are in and out. Friendlies are, you're working on different things. You're maybe not always as intense as Team USA was against Australia on Monday. I am going to withhold judgment until we get to the Olympics, till we get to games that matter, and see if, when you lock in a little bit, see if things change. I think that I have always believed Franz is going to bounce back with his shooting. I was never quite concerned with it. He still had a career year. Did a whole podcast on his terrible, awesome season. I still believe Franz can be a very effective player, even as a mediocre shooter, but he just cannot be a sub 33-point shooter. He's got to get to at least 33, 34%, to be at least a nominal threat out there. And these games, these competitive games, are our chance to just get that checkup on him. Now, a lot of people would say this is why Franz shouldn't be playing for the national team. He's playing for the national team. That you're signing up for that when you drafted him. He is a national team player. It matters to them. It's a big, big deal. It should be a big deal for us here in America. It's not, because who knows why. This is a big deal. He's going to play. I will say this: the Olympics end August 10th or 11th. They end in early August. Typically, let's say season ends in May. We had 2 months between the end of the season and the beginning of Summer League. And you can see how much work Anthony Black put in and his shot to be ready for Summer League. We will have roughly a month and a half between the Olympics and the start of training camp. So whatever Franz is struggling with, he'll take, a week or two off after the Olympics end. So, that does cut into the time. But he still has time to work on his game and be ready for the regular season, to rest his body especially, and be ready for the regular season. This isn't FIBA where the World Cup ends and you have 2 weeks before training camp. Having said that, we need to see Franz be Franz. We need to see Franz make shots, and make shots regularly, and have a good shooting summer. And it is fair to be concerned that he's 0 for 7. His first 7 3-pointers, he's in the hole already. These games don't count. They're not meaningful. They're practice games. They're exhibitions. They're friendlies. They're working on things. We know Germany's going to be competitive. We know they're going to have a long run in this tournament. But we want to see Franz be Franz. And we know the drives are going to be there. We know those shots around the basket are going to be there. We know that defense is going to be there. We got to see the 3-point shot develop. And that's been the part that hasn't quite come to pass yet. Germany is back in action. Let me just make sure I know when they're back in action. Germany is back in action on Friday afternoon against Japan. So we will get to see Franz. We will at least be able to see reports of Franz playing. Then they'll play Team USA on the 22nd on Monday. And then that is the last game they play before their Olympic opener. So we will see them in the Olympics shortly after that. But, we'll get plenty of Franz, and we'll talk plenty about the Olympics as it comes up. But that's going to do it for me today. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. You can find me on Twitter at @PhilipRR_OMD. You can subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Himalaya, Google Play, Spotify, Odyssey, and all the fun places on podcasts to your podcast-enabled listening device. You can also check us out on YouTube. Just search for Locked On Magic and subscribe to us there as well. Thank you all for doing that. For the latest on the Orlando Magic, be sure to check out OrlandoMagicDaily.com. You can follow us there on Twitter at OMagicDaily. And for even more Orlando Magic content, you can check out my Patreon page. the Orlando Magic Hub at patreon.com/Orlando Magic Hub. And as always, thank you for your support. Now that you're done listening to me, be sure to check out the Locked On Sports Today 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube and now available on Amazon Fire TV in the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV channels app. Well, that's going to do it for me today. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. For Orlando Magic Daily and Locked On Magic, this has been Philip Rossman-Reich. We'll see you all again next time for another episode of Locked On Magic.